Welcome to one of the most unsettling cases ever recorded in the history of Alexandria. Before we begin, I invite you to share in the comments where you are watching from and the exact time you are listening to this story. It's always interesting to see the different places and times these mysterious accounts reach. The year was 1835 when the Brant family moved into their new home on Duke Street in Alexandria, Virginia. It was a modest two-story federal-style brick house just 8 blocks from the busy wharves of the Potomac River. Isaiah Brant had come from Baltimore with his new wife Clementine, formerly Clementine Morel, daughter of a French merchant who had settled in Maryland around 30 years earlier. Isaiah bought the property from a retired tobacco trader who claimed its southern exposure and large cellar would be perfect for Isaiah's business plans. He hoped to make a name for himself as a respected merchant in the growing port city. What made the purchase even more appealing was the neighboring structure, a narrow, 3-story building with small windows and a separate entrance from the alley. Isaiah referred to it in his letters as the Annex. It was meant to serve as quarters for the 5 enslaved people the Brants had brought from Baltimore, a married couple in their 40s, their daughter aged 22, a male laborer around 30, and an older woman who worked as cook. Their names appeared only as property in Isaiah's business ledgers, though in private letters Clementine mentioned the cook by name, Martha. The Duke Street property stood in an area that housed both free and enslaved black residents, as well as several businesses tied to the domestic slave trade. Just 3 blocks away was the notorious Franklin and Armfield slave pen, one of the largest slave trading centers in the nation. At that time, Alexandria was still part of the District of Columbia, and its economy was deeply connected to both international trade and the buying and selling of enslaved people. Tax records from early 1835 show Isaiah describing himself as a mercantile agent with ties to tobacco and cotton dealers across Virginia and the Carolinas. His business appeared legitimate, with regular shipments listed at the Alexandria Custom House. Yet some records revealed troubling inconsistencies. Ships arriving from Baltimore and sailing to New Orleans carried goods that didn't match the cargo listed on the manifests. The first strange event at the Brant residence appeared in a letter Clementine wrote to her sister in August of 1835. She mentioned hearing constant sounds from the cellar, like furniture being dragged across the floor, though there was none to move, followed by an uneasy silence. Isaiah brushed off her fears, blaming the noises on the old house settling or perhaps rats in the walls. A ledger found later among Isaiah's papers showed that by September he had made extensive renovations to the cellar, including the installation of a new door with a complex locking system. A craftsman was paid $27 for specialized ironwork described as a secure containment fixture. The same ledger also noted payments to a stonecutter for work on the cellar floor, though the exact nature of the work wasn't explained. The first recorded disappearance happened in early October 1835. A notice in the Alexandria Gazette stated that a Negro man of about 30 years, property of I. Brant, had escaped. A $100 reward was offered for his return. Strangely, Isaiah didn't place further notices, as was common for valuable property. His ledger simply recorded the loss of asset and adjusted the account balance. By November, Clementine had begun writing a private journal, discovered more than a century later in 1958 during renovations to the house. Her entries show growing fear and confusion about her husband's behavior. She wrote, "He spends most evenings in his study with the door locked. When he comes out, his face is cold and distant. He speaks little at supper and goes to bed right after. The house feels like a tomb." One haunting entry from November 23rd read, "Heard crying from below after midnight. I told myself it was the wind in the chimney, but there was no wind last night." She also wrote that Martha avoided the cellar completely, sending the young woman down for supplies. The girl returned pale and shaking every time. A city record from December 1835 showed that Isaiah applied for permission to alter the sewer line under his property. The city engineer expressed concern, but approved the changes after Isaiah made a large donation to a local improvement fund. What occurred between the winter of 1835 and early 1836 remains unclear. There was a noticeable gap in Clementine's journal from late December until mid-February. When her entries resumed, her handwriting looked heavier and more rigid, as though written under strain. She stopped mentioning the cellar noises and instead described her husband's frequent late-night meetings with business associates. A court document from March 1836 shows that Isaiah was briefly questioned about the disappearance of a free black man last seen near the Brandt property. He provided witnesses who confirmed he had been across town at a meeting. The case was soon dropped. By April, Isaiah's business seemed to be thriving. Bank records show large deposits, and he bought 2 more properties near the waterfront. But neighbors noticed disturbing changes in Clementine. One neighbor's wife described her as ghostly thin, standing for hours at her window staring into nothing, refusing visits or church invitations. Invoices from a local apothecary show that between April and June 1836, Isaiah bought increasing amounts of laudanum, supposedly for Clementine's nerves. He also purchased large quantities of potassium permanganate, various acids, and lime, all common household items at the time, but also chemicals known to eliminate smells and dissolve organic material. In June, the 22-year-old enslaved woman from the Brandt household was reported missing. Isaiah placed a short notice but made no visible effort to find her. Clementine's journal for that day contained only one chilling sentence. "He told me she ran away." The locked door tells another story. By midsummer, her journal entries became scattered and frantic. She wrote of hallways beneath the house that should not exist, and of arguments with Isaiah about sounds she still heard. "He says I imagine things, yet he watches me always. Follows me in the garden, says it is for my safety." A striking entry from July 18th read, "Found the key while he was away. Went down to the cellar alone. God forgive me for what I saw. The walls have been pushed back farther than they should go. How deep does it run? And the marks on the stone, names, numbers, a ledger of souls. I put the key back. He must not know I've seen." A week later, on July 25th, Isaiah wrote to a business associate in Richmond mentioning expanding operations and needing special accommodations for merchandise in transit. He asked about ships bound for the Caribbean with discreet captains who could carry unusual cargo without papers. On August 2nd, 1836, the city night watchman recorded strange activity at the Brandt home. Lights flickering in the cellar windows and sounds of digging. When he knocked, no one answered. He left, assuming nothing was wrong. 3 days later, on August 6th, a massive fire broke out. By the time firefighters arrived, the house was engulfed. The annex remained untouched. Both Isaiah and Clementine were found dead. Their cause of death was listed as smoke inhalation. The 3 surviving enslaved people were taken by Isaiah's brother, who came from Philadelphia to handle the estate. The cellar, however, was mostly unharmed. City inspectors found that its walls had been altered and new tunnels dug, one appearing to lead toward the river. The site was left abandoned for almost 10 years before being replaced by a warehouse. During construction, workers uncovered chains, iron restraints, and tools of unknown use. Some said they saw names scratched into the walls, but no official record was kept. Decades later, in 1858, a former slave trader named Thomas Wilson confessed on his deathbed to a minister in New Orleans. He said he had once worked with a northern man in Alexandria who ran an underground holding area for enslaved people being secretly sent to the Caribbean. He described a cellar used to break captives through chemicals and fear, turning them into hollow shells of obedience before shipment. The minister sealed the confession, which wasn't found until 1963. In 1958, during urban renewal, workers near the old Brandt property uncovered a narrow tunnel leading toward the old wharf. Inside, they found a woman's shoe from the 1830s, a strange key, and a small, water-damaged leather book. Its pages listed names, dates, and amounts, what appeared to be a ledger of human lives. Tests on the soil revealed chemicals matching those Isaiah had bought. And beneath all that earth, traces of lime remained, the telltale sign of someone who wanted to hide what could not be buried forever. Perhaps the most disturbing discovery came when workers removed a part of the old cellar wall and found a small, hollow space that contained Clementine's full journal. The final entries, which had never been seen by historians before, reveal the thoughts of a woman driven to desperate action. Her entry, dated August 5, 1836, the day before the fire, reads, "I have seen everything now, the tunnel, the chains, the room where they are changed. I found the missing pages from I's ledger, not goods, but people, dozens of them, their names, their prices, their destinations, and notes about procedures performed. God forgive him. God forgive me for my silence. There is only one way to stop this." The last entry, dated August the 6th, simply says, "The lamp will fall tonight. The fire will cleanse what cannot be saved. I have sealed this journal where flames cannot reach. Someone must know what happened here. Someone must remember them." Arson investigators in 1960, reviewing the old case, noted that the fire pattern from 1836 matched the effects of a deliberately overturned oil lamp in the main bedroom, exactly as Clementine had written. In 1968, the last major document connected to the Brandt mystery came to light. It was a ship's manifest from August 1836, found in a collection of maritime records in New Orleans. Among the regular cargo list was a coded section that, once deciphered using keys from Isaiah's business letters, showed the transport of 9 unnamed items valued at prices similar to human trafficking rates of that time. The manifest was dated August 4th, just 2 days before the fire that destroyed the Brandt home. Today, a modern office building stands where the Brandt house once was. A small historical marker only mentions that this was once the home of merchant Isaiah Brandt and his wife Clementine, who both died in a fire in 1836. Nothing remains of the cellar, the tunnel, or the evidence of what happened there, except in archives and the memories of those determined to preserve the truth. For decades, workers in nearby buildings have reported sudden cold spots, especially in basement areas, and strange sounds like distant crying or metal scraping against stone. Engineers have found no physical reason for these occurrences. However, more concrete traces appear during construction projects around the site. Buttons, coins, and small pieces of chain occasionally surface, quiet echoes of interrupted lives. Each item is catalogued, each story recorded, as Alexandria continues to face the darker parts of its history. The most chilling mystery from Alexandria's slave-era past remains only partly solved. Evidence strongly suggests that Isaiah Brandt ran an illegal human trafficking operation from his Duke Street property, but many questions are still unanswered. How many people passed through that cellar? Who helped Brandt other than Thomas Wilson? And what exactly was the procedure mentioned in his secret records? From the surviving documents, it becomes clear that Clementine Brandt, once a silent observer, eventually decided to end her husband's crimes in the only way she could imagine: by destroying everything in fire, including herself. Perhaps the real horror of the Brandt story lies not in ghosts or strange noises, but in the human ability for both cruelty and redemption. Isaiah built a hidden chamber of horrors behind a mask of respectability, while Clementine, through her final act, tried to bring justice when society offered her none. The echoes of their story and of those who suffered beneath their home still resonate through Alexandria's history, a dark reminder of what once existed in plain sight and the bravery it takes to confront it. Some historians have suggested that the Brandt case, although uniquely well documented because of Clementine's preserved journal, may be only one example of similar operations in the region. The tunnel found under the Brandt property closely matches others discovered along the Potomac, hinting at a possible network of such illegal sites. In 1967, an elderly woman came forward claiming that her great-grandmother had once been held in a devil's cellar in Alexandria before escaping during a fire. Her description of the place and its operation matched secret details from the Brandt case that were not public at that time, suggesting that at least one victim might have escaped during the chaos. As Alexandria continues to dig into its past, both literally and figuratively, the story of Duke Street remains a haunting reminder that the darkest parts of history often lie just beneath the surface, waiting for those willing to uncover them. And on quiet nights, some locals say if you stand on the corner of Duke Street, where the Brandt house once stood, you can still hear faint scraping from below, like furniture being moved, though there's nothing left to move. In 1969, a graduate student studying the domestic slave trade found a torn letter in the archives of a Baltimore bank where Isaiah Brandt once did business. The letter, dated July 1836, was addressed to a ship captain and gave coded directions for a meeting at the Alexandria wharf. What made it disturbing was a casual postscript in which Brandt wrote, "The procedure continues to prove effective. The merchandise from last month was delivered without trouble or resistance. Not a single word spoken during transit." This reference to the procedure matched earlier mentions in Isaiah's secret ledger and in Thomas Wilson's deathbed confession. Historians and medical experts reviewing the evidence in 1972 theorized that Isaiah had developed a chemical method to create a trance-like state in his victims. They believe he mixed laudanum with other compounds bought from the local apothecary to produce a drug that made people compliant and silent. Archaeological samples from the tunnel excavation in 1958 support this idea. Soil tests showed traces of opium derivatives and chemicals that could produce effects similar to modern understandings of a chemically induced dissociative state. In short, Isaiah Brandt seemed to have been experimenting with an early form of chemical control, making enslaved people easier to transport and less likely to resist. A damaged ledger from June 1836 included the line, "Procedure refined. Subject remains functional but obedient for 14 days. Memory loss noted, speech suppressed. Value increased by 40%. This means Brandt was not only trafficking human beings, but also experimenting on them to increase profit, erasing their ability to resist or remember. The merchandise in transit he spoke of were living people turned into what one historian later called walking ghosts. What remains uncertain is how Clementine moved from quiet bystander to active opponent. Her early journal entries show her confusion and denial. At first, she accepted Isaiah's excuses for the strange noises and late-night activities. Over time, her suspicion grew, as did her fear. She wrote that her husband had become paranoid, sleeping with the cellar key under his pillow. In one heartbreaking entry from June 1836, she wrote, "Martha says she heard crying from below. I pretended not to hear. What kind of woman have I become that I ignore crying beneath my own floors? I am a coward. Each day of silence makes me more guilty." By July, Clementine began investigating on her own. On July 10th, she followed Isaiah one night wearing his coat and hiding her hair. She saw him meeting a ship captain and overheard talk about special cargo and private transport. 2 days later, she found financial documents proving Isaiah was earning far more than his legitimate business could explain. "Where does this money come from?" she wrote. "And these payments to captains, to doctors, to guards, what kind of goods require such care?" The turning point came on July 18th when she finally used the cellar key. She didn't describe exactly what she saw, but her handwriting changed completely, shaky, uneven, and filled with ink stains. She wrote only, "Souls, God help me. He is trading in souls, and not just trading, changing them, breaking them." The empty eyes of the woman chained to the wall. I will never forget. After that, her entries show careful planning. She noted Isaiah's routines, the arrivals of his partners, and began gathering supplies: lamp oil, matches, small tools, and hidden money. On July 25th, she wrote, "I thought of going to the authorities today. Then I remembered who they are. Men like him, men who dine at our table, who profit from the same trade. There will be no justice there, only an end." On July 30th, she wrote chillingly, "Counted the bottles in his cabinet today, enough laudanum to put the whole house to sleep. That would be the gentle way, but I do not feel gentle anymore." Church records from that time show Clementine began attending services more often. The minister's diary notes her obsession with the themes of sin and redemption and how she sought private counsel about guilt and forgiveness. On August 2nd, she wrote of seeing the night watchman outside while Isaiah worked below. "For a moment I thought of shouting, of begging for help. But what then? A scandal, a fine, and he would walk free again. No, it must end completely." Her entries for August 3rd and 4th are calm, almost peaceful. She describes cooking, sewing, and arranging flowers. Knowing what would soon happen, these simple details feel haunting, her final act of normal life before ending it all. Her next and final entry on August 5th describes her discovery of the hidden compartment in Isaiah's desk and what she called the true ledger. This document, which was never found, was said to describe the full scale of Isaiah's secret operation. It reportedly listed names and destinations of the people who passed through his cellar and explained in detail the method used to control them. "Now I know everything," Clementine wrote. "It is larger than I ever thought. Not dozens, hundreds. For over 4 years, starting in Baltimore and now here, others have joined him. Men with power, men who are respected, merchants, doctors, ship captains. It is a great network of suffering, and Isaiah stands at its center, growing rich from the pain he creates. There is no one I can turn to, no justice to be found in a system that allows such things. The system itself is the crime." Her last journal entry, dated August 6th, the day of the fire, included both her confession and her reasoning. "The lamp will fall tonight. The fire will cleanse what cannot be saved. I have hidden this journal where flames cannot reach. Someone must know what happened. Someone must remember." Records from the fire brigade show that the blaze began just after midnight on August 6th. When the responders arrived, the main house was already covered in flames. The report said the fire started in the master bedroom and spread quickly, likely helped by lamp oil or another flammable liquid. The bodies of Isaiah and Clementine Brandt were found in their bed. According to the official report, both died in the fire, but notes from the medical examiner discovered in 1973 included a strange detail that had never been made public. Isaiah's lungs showed signs of smoke inhalation, meaning he was alive when the fire started. Clementine's did not. Instead, the examiner mentioned traces of laudanum in her system, suggesting she was already dead before the flames reached her. This evidence points to the idea that Clementine may have taken her own life with the laudanum and then set the fire, making sure her plan would succeed even if she changed her mind at the last minute. It was her final act of defiance against her husband and against her own guilt. But what about the people held in the cellar when the fire began? The historical record provides very little about their fate. The tunnel leading to the PTOAC gives one possible answer, that some might have escaped during the chaos. A story from 1967 tells of an elderly woman who said her great-grandmother once fled from a devil's cellar in Alexandria during a fire, a tale that gives faint support to the escape theory. When archaeologists excavated the site in 1958, they found that the cellar itself had not burned badly. The stone walls and floor were still mostly intact. Fire brigade notes also show they had focused on stopping the blaze from spreading to nearby buildings rather than saving the Brandt home, which was already lost. This could mean that anyone trapped below might have used the tunnel to escape during the confusion. Isaiah's brother arrived from Philadelphia a week after the fire to handle the estate. He told authorities that 3 enslaved people listed under Isaiah's ownership had survived because they had been kept in a nearby annex untouched by the flames. Records show that he brought them back to Philadelphia, but what happened to them afterward remains unknown. They disappeared from all historical records. Whether they stayed enslaved, were sold, or perhaps were freed, no one knows. The most haunting questions remain about those who may have been kept in the cellar as part of Isaiah's secret business. In 1858, a man named Thomas Wilson made a confession on his deathbed, saying that in the 4 years he worked with the Alexandria merchant, he personally arranged transportation for at least 60 people who had gone through the cellar and undergone Isaiah's strange procedure. If that number reflects only what Wilson knew, the total number of victims could easily reach into the hundreds. As Clementine feared, these individuals were undocumented and intentionally kept out of even the minimal record-keeping that existed for enslaved persons. There is no official trace of their lives or deaths. A new piece of the Brandt mystery came to light in 1975, when an architectural historian studying old buildings along the Pituac noticed a hidden pattern. 3 properties in Alexandria, including the former Brandt house on Duke Street, shared a common feature: cellars that extended beyond their original foundations, each with narrow tunnels leading toward the river. All 3 had been owned at different times between 1830 and 1850 by merchants connected to Isaiah Brandt. This discovery supported the idea that Isaiah was part of a larger network of illegal human traffickers operating under the cover of respectable business. While the Brandt case remains the best documented example, mainly because of Clementine's preserved journal and the fire that brought attention to the property, it may have been only one part of a much bigger web. The investigation concluded that Isaiah Brandt had run an illegal human trafficking ring that used chemicals to control its victims. It also stated that Clementine's decision to destroy everything by fire was likely driven by moral awakening and her realization that no legal path to justice existed in a society built on slavery. The report added a broader perspective. Although the Brandt operation broke the law even for that time, it functioned within a world that normalized slavery. Isaiah's crime was not enslaving people, that was legal, but doing it outside the system that offered a thin mask of order and record-keeping. This explains Clementine's despair and her belief that there was no true justice. The same authorities who might have stopped Isaiah's crimes were themselves invested in maintaining slavery. Her writings reveal a woman awakening to the truth, realizing her husband's actions were only a reflection of a larger evil in which she too was trapped. Today, the place where the Brandt house once stood is marked by a small plaque that quietly tells this story. It reads, "Near this spot stood the home of Isaiah and Clementine Brandt, destroyed by fire in August 1836. Archaeological evidence shows the property was used for illegal human trafficking. The fire, likely set by Clementine Brandt, ended an operation that caused great suffering. This marker honors the known and unknown victims of this site and reminds us of Alexandria's complicated past." Local historians and community members have worked hard to make sure the Brandt story is remembered in schools and museums as part of the city's history, especially in lessons about slavery and its lasting effects. The case is featured in museum exhibits around Alexandria, including a permanent display at the Alexandria Black History Museum that uses the Brandt cellar as an example of how archaeology can uncover hidden histories of pain, courage, and survival. Perhaps the most lasting part of the Brandt mystery is how it shows the struggle between recorded history and lost voices. We have Clementine's words, Isaiah's records, and the remains of the cellar and tunnel, but nothing from the captives themselves. Their names, their experiences, and their fates remain unrecorded, erased by design. Yet pieces of their existence still echo, in fragments of evidence, in scattered family stories, in the soil itself. These faint traces remind us that behind every cruel chapter of history are real human lives marked by suffering and sometimes resistance. City officials later decided not to dig further but left the site marked for future study and remembrance. They installed a memorial plaque acknowledging that much of Alexandria's underground history remains hidden. Maybe that is the most fitting ending to the Brandt story, the understanding that beneath the visible streets of history lies a network of untold stories still waiting to be found. In 2005, radar scans made during a construction project near the old Brandt site revealed signs of more tunnels running beyond what was previously mapped. The story of Isaiah and Clementine Brandt, a tale of cruelty, guilt, awakening, and desperate courage, reminds us that history's most important lessons often lie in what was hidden, not what was celebrated. Sometimes, the bravest act is to bring light to darkness, no matter the cost. And if you ever walk along the cobblestone streets of old Alexandria today, past the old-style buildings that look much like the Brandt home once did, remember, beneath those streets still lie stories waiting to be told. Some bring pride, others bring sorrow, but all are part of a shared past that shapes who we are. And if you stand on the corner of Duke Street, where the Brandt house once stood, and feel a chill in the air or hear faint scraping from below, maybe it's only the wind, or maybe it's history itself, whispering that we must never forget what happened here.